Hello and welcome. This video is going to be IDing some items and then hopefully analyzing those items and finding out what's going to sell and what's not and why, more importantly. Um, I'm recent to Inferno, a little over a week now. I got really lucky with an initial legendary drop that I sold for 46 million. Profited about 40 after the auction house cut. So I re-geared my tune basically the second day after hitting 60 and was able to just start farming Act 1 right away. I have my tabs are all full of 62 and 63 items, so I'm going to go through and ID these today. When I was watching streams and YouTube, the thing that I really felt was lacking was the actual IDing process, taking just a whole lot of items and walking you through the process. Occasionally you'll see an example on streams, but they really breeze through the process because it's second nature to them. And all too often I waste my own time in Trade Channel trying to explain to people when they ask for advice on what's going to sell and what's not. So I thought doing this here reach a few more people. Little background on me: I used to play WoW. I had a gold making blog. I was the fastest person to reach 1,000,000 gold. Did it in like 4.5 months. So I'm definitely, the economy is a fun part of the game for me. So I'm loving this addition to Diablo. Unlike huge majority of players I know that don't like it, but it adds another skill level, another entertainment level for me. So hopefully this video can maybe either clear the clouds for some of that mystery from some of you, or just furthering your enjoyment of what you're already cashing in on like me. So we can go ahead and get started here. These are all 62 and 63 items. There are some 61 rings, but that's because rings and amulets and stuff stop at 62. So, horrible chest, low primary stat, low vitality, and nothing else. So, I'll talk about some of the general rules as I go through and I find examples to tell you about. Weapon, two-handed weapons, you're generally looking for 4 digits at the minimum, like 1,000 and above, and then some good stats. If it's got incredible affixes, then you might have a chance if it's around 900, but otherwise they're just total waste. So generally you're looking for a primary stat, whether it's dexterity, intelligence, or strength, in addition to vitality. Horrible, this has just got resist all. And then you're looking for your defensive affixes or your offensive affixes. Defensive, the best of which being maybe reduced damage from elites or resist all. There are smaller, more important ones depending on which class you are, but generally those are the ones that are going to sell the most. So my sellable trifecta really that I really look for is a primary stat, vitality, and resist all. If it has those three, I pretty much know I can sell it unless they're horribly low rolls on all of them. The question is just for how much, and then that'll just take a little work going through the auction house and filtering. But if it has those three, anything after that is gravy, and that's really going to determine how much bank I can get on it. Okay, so these pants, pretty horrible. It's got 2 primary stats that conflict with each other. But that being said, it is a small good thing to note that strength, if you're a witch doctor or a wizard, yeah, strength sucks, but it's also going to provide you with armor. And a lot of times that might make the difference to somebody going through 2 very comparable items. Is one has some armor and some strength, and that armor and strength is going to be maybe equivalent to a little bit of resist all. The numbers I see flying around are about 10 armor to 1 resist all. So those are the type of alternative stat viewings that you can use. Wand, the DPS is horrible, but it does have a socket, but unfortunately it's got strength, which doesn't help at all, so pretty much trash. Dex, intelligence, 2 competing primary stats, and really low resist all. Crap. Intelligence for a monk, really not good. Interesting to note here though is the magic find. They cap out at 20 on most slots, so a high magic find, 17, 18, 19, 20, can generally net you some money. However, on this piece, with it being a helm, everyone's going to want a socket plus natural magic find so that you can more than double the magic find component for that slot. I'm not as intelligent on shields as other people, but this has got a decent chance to block. It's got a ton of strength. It's got a little bit of vitality, but it's missing that crit chance, which is really where you want for a shield, and especially for other characters that aren't a barbarian. The only reason to wear a shield would be for a big chunk of, you can get up to 10% crit on your shield. Maybe a wizard tank or something wants to go that route. So this, I'm not positive, so I'm going to put it to the side, but I really don't think that's going to sell for anything because it's missing one of the most vital stats. This is horrible. It's got a really low block chance. It's got a decent amount of armor, but it's got no vitality, a really low strength roll, so. Really low DPS on it for a two-hand, and it's got dexterity, and you don't often see demon hunters wanting a staff. So here we have a primary stat, vitality, and unfortunately it's a single resistance, poison, instead of resist all. In terms of the resistances, physical and fire are going to be the ones you're going to want to stack the highest, probably followed by arcane, and then lightning, and then poison, and then cold. And that directly reflects the quantity that you'll run into them in the game, like what's really going to cause you problems. So there's some decent affixes on this crossbow. It's got attack speed, it's got lifesteal, and a socket, but the numbers are really low. And when you've got 3 tabs plus your gear slot full of unidentified items, you really don't have the time or the room to be saving possible sells. With only 10 slots in the auction house, you've got to sell the best of the best. Primary stat, vitality, really low resist all. And you can look for a lot better on shoulders than that. So, again, this might be decent if it was any other slot than the head, but as a magic find item, you've got a little bit of life, you've got a strong primary stat, but it's for a monk, so that doesn't work, and it doesn't have the socket, so the magic find is really going to be half of what it could be. Two primary stats, so that doesn't bode too well, and very low resist all. Generally, for a number for resist all that I want to see is 55, 50 to 55. I'd go as low as 50 or 55 if it's got amazing other stats. But for my gear, I generally go for a 65 for a minimum for resist alls on top of everything else, but then you're getting into a costly zone. So this is all crap. I think there was, what, maybe the chest? No, that was, I thought there was one item in here that was decent. Oh, maybe the shield I was just going to check on, but everything else is horrible. Yeah, we had two 18% helms, which if they just had a socket, could have made some money there. But I'm going to hang on to this shield. I don't think that shield's worth anything because it's missing the crit, but it'll be good to look it up. Horrible. One interesting note, the pickup radius. When you can combine pickup radius plus a high gold find on an item, you've really got a good seller. For the people that maybe aren't 60 yet and they're farming some gold in Nightmare Act 3, or just for all those gold finding bots that they need to deck out all their tunes. And they need to deck out their tunes often because Blizzard does find them, Blizzard does ban them, and then they just need to buy a new game license and they need to start all over again. So when I say a high gold find, you want the roll to be at least 20 and above. preferably 22, 23, 24. Um, and those sell for a moderate amount. Maybe you can get a couple 100,000 depending upon what slot it is. But when you compare that with pickup radius, the price will skyrocket. And then if you can put vitality or primary stat on that, then you've got a real moneymaker. So Magic Find and Gold Find are definite sellers that you can get unlucky on your offensive, your defensive, your primary stats. If you can still get a high roll on Magic Find or Gold Find, you can still salvage something. Not literally salvage in the game, but just as a verb, you can salvage some value from it. So this is pretty decent. It's missing movement speed, which is really key on boots, unless it's got great everything else. But you know, you've got a decent strength, you've got decent vitality, and you've got a really high resist all. And the pickup radius is pretty much throwaway here. Another note on pickup radius: you generally any max level character is going to want to have one piece of gear with pickup radius on it, but it has to be at least 6. That's going to ensure that when you're just standing still fighting packs of melee elites or something, if they drop a health globe, that's going to be able to snatch it for you without moving. 5 is just not going to cut it generally, so that's kind of a throwaway element there. Unless maybe somebody has another 5 yard and they're combining 2 5s. That seems a little irrelevant. So maybe these boots have potential for a brand new level 60. Like I did. This is exactly the type of gear that if that was strength was intellect, is exactly what I would have taken when I fresh hit 60. I wouldn't have had a ton of money to spend, but you can get at least last week you could get a decent amount of money for this. It'll start you off really nicely for Act 1. Primary stat, vitality, and resist all. You got a primary and vitality, but the rest is all pretty crappy. It's a really nice roll on the health globes, maybe for a barbarian, if this was like a barbarian belt with some lifesteal, but it isn't. So woulda, coulda, shoulda. These are always unfortunate when you get all 3 primary stats on an item. It happens way more often than it should, it always seems, but that's selective memory. But you got resist all, and you've got your choice of primary stat, and then 2 sockets, which you could double up on your primary stat, or you could throw a bit of vitality on there. So this is something that I could customize by putting in some cheap gems before posting on the auction house. And so this has, what I can do is I can go through and I can filter looking for say an average of 38 plus 38 for the gems, so 76. 76 on top of that 70 strength, or on top of the 50 dexterity, or the 90 intelligence, and then plus the resist all. And then I can do a search for that, or I could just do a search for maybe the 90 intelligence plus the 70 roughly vitality, if I want to put that in, plus the 50 resist all. And then, it's exactly like that other piece. You got a primary, vitality, and resist all. Do not underestimate the value of those items like that. They do sell. Those big ticket items are great. You can make a lot of money, but you've got to invest a little bit of time to get those to sell. So quick sells that are just obvious little minor upgrades for people that you can have a high turnover rate on, it's really worth an auction house slot for 100,000, 200,000. It adds up. So here we have a chest with 19 magic find. Unfortunately, it's got nothing else. But if people are doing gear swapping, this could definitely be something to check on the auction house. So at least we have some decent numbers here, and it's got over 600 life on hit. So that's definitely something we want to check on the auction house and price later on. It doesn't have a socket for some crit damage, which is ideal, but so like this is basically, if these affixes were on the staff we just dropped, which had 1050 something DPS, that would be ideal. But the fact that you've got good offensive affixes on this,